So if you ever wrote data into the CRM and you want to revert that, this is the way to do it from within Clay. I need to preface this with a few things. So first, and this is very important, never, or more or less never, write to kind of the main fields in the CRM. So nothing of this is really terrible because, as you can see here, I'm using my own custom properties, custom fields, if it would be Salesforce, where basically the LinkedIn URL was written to my own LinkedIn URL enriched external properties. So nothing is really overwritten here. But there are a few downstream effects that are really negative that I want to avoid because these shouldn't have been written yet. So all this is, once you already done a mistake, this is how to roll it back. But it's important for that whenever you write something to the CRM, that it's kind of into neat, separate properties, in most cases at least. So with that out of the way, what I'm going to show is how it looks. On this contact, I hope I can actually overwrite this one. Let's see, is this one that I can overwrite? Yeah, I believe so. John, is this? Okay, let's look into this person. Yeah, so this is the data that I want. And in some cases, it even has like, okay, this data. Okay, so this is what I don't want. LinkedIn provider, Clayagent reasoning, all of that I can't have on the property, on the contact. So I want to roll this back. This cannot be in here after the rollback. So the way to do that inside of Clay or from within Clay, because in HubSpot, you can kind of only do it at 100 records at a time. So here's the way this works. I ran the update object and it shouldn't have run. It is what it is. The next thing I'm going to do is look up single row in other table. You have to, this is only my way of doing this, because what I'm doing here is I'm looking at the object ID, the contact ID that I can get here. And what this column says is this contact ID was in another table, which is my way to say I want to run it on some contacts, but not on other contacts. You don't necessarily have to have this if you wrote 10,000 to 10,000 contacts and you know exactly these 10,000 are the ones you need to roll back. You don't need this step. For me, it's only about 10,000 out of these 30,000, which is why I need one more measure of, okay, I want to roll back some, but not others. You can see this here. So for example, if this ID isn't found in another table, I don't want to roll it back, then everything is fine. So here we go. Because there's a little problem how that works. So first, you need to create a separate update object column, which is this one. And there's it's a challenge, I would say. So here's the first thing I'm going to do. I'm going to say only show mapped fields. And this will be in the original update. It was these 5 fields that I updated, these 5 properties: LinkedIn agent reasoning, LinkedIn enrichment attempted, yada, yada. Here we run into the interesting problem that usually ignore blank values is set to true. What means is if any, because there's like hundreds of properties here, right? And if you don't ignore blank values, then Clay would write blank values into those properties. So nothing would get changed, so to say, which is the right thing to do. We need to consider 2 things, because what I actually want to do is overwrite these kinds of fields. Where is it? Overwrite these kinds of fields with basically no data. And the same goes for the LinkedIn URL and the date. I don't want any data in there. And the way to do that is to send blank data into those fields. But if you just leave this empty, Clay wouldn't know it needs to do something on this field. So if I just leave it blank, that's the same as for all the other hundreds of properties. So it wouldn't know where to write a blank value. And when you use this double quote thing, maybe that works, maybe that doesn't work. But to my understanding, this is ignored. You would have to have your own HTTP API column, and I didn't want to do anything that's not out of the box in here. So the way to do it is actually to create a conditional formula that outputs a blank value, because then you can reference this cell. So what you see here is the conditional blank, which says if the rollback OK is set to true, then output a blank value. Otherwise, say Clay don't run. What this does is, when you look here, if we don't get the rollback OK, which in turn is, if we find a record, the rollback is OK. If we don't find a record, the rollback is not OK. If you have to roll back every contact you wrote, you don't need this. But I needed that because I want to roll back some, but not other records. So if rollback is OK, if any certain condition is met, you need this condition, this column you need. If anything is met, then output a blank value. And this is that blank value, which, and we are almost done here, which means when I now show these 5 values that I actually want to roll back, these 5 properties that I want to roll back, I can slash into the conditional blank. Here it shows Clay don't run because I don't have a blank value in the first couple of 100 or 1,000 rows, so it just doesn't show it. But forget about that. The point is that I can slash into this conditional blank, and that actually means those 5 fields that you see here, Clay knows it should send a blank value for these 5 fields, and because we say ignore blank values is off, it will actually execute on that. If you don't have these 2 things together, nothing will happen. So let's see what happens when we actually do execute that. So let's look quickly at, maybe let's, okay, so let's look at this record. What we are getting here is, okay, there is data in this record. I don't want that. And then let's update Josh. Yes, yes. Okay, the same record. I'm just going to reload that. Beautiful. We now don't have any data. This is the old thing. So we don't have any data in here anymore, which is exactly what I want. This is how you do it. Super helpful. Stuff just happens. I think the most important thing is just not to write bad data into the CRM. But if it happens, this is a way to roll it back. I hope this helps.